So welcome again to Youthful Solutions, and I am TanYah Global. And so I got a couple messages about doing a video in terms of the political climate in Jamaica and young people and people asking me to chime in. And I've been hesitant because I want this channel to focus on youth development work, principles and practices that youth workers, serving organizations can use, can watch, can enjoy, and use to build their capacity. And so I was sent two videos, and I'm going to play those videos for you now. And then after I've played those videos, then we're going to have a conversation about youth inclusion, youth leadership, and just the youth voice and what that looks like in our present times. All right, so take a look.
I'm the president of the Love March movement, which is a youth organization, and we have an initiative called Colorblind, which is where we encourage young people to be engaged in political and national matters with an unbiased eye, without political assignment or, alignment rather. Okay, so my issue that I would like to raise at this time is with respect to needs. All right. Now, I am not, and we are not, against a national ID. We see the benefit of it. There are great pros. It will fill gaps in the country. But we believe that in its current form, it poses significant issues for many Jamaicans, especially with the fact that there has not been, in my opinion, and many other Jamaicans, 60,000, I checked the petition this morning, 60,000 Jamaicans here and abroad who feel that there needs to be more consultation, ventilation of the issues, speaking about pros and cons. All right, both of them are important to a consultative process. So we're being told that we must enroll in NIDS, or in the next 3 years we'll be possibly fined a max of $100,000 and barred from government services and possibly private services as well. The only exception being where there's a threat to health or life or a state of national emergency. Now, I'm deeply concerned about this bill because of the impact on the country.
So Charles, you have given us 2 points in the bill that you'd like responded to.
Well, I can't go into all of them, but just to say, right now I qualify for NHT.
Yes.
In 3 years, I will somehow lose my qualification because, I mean, somebody can respond to the NHT point, of course.
You're sure about that?
Well, that is my understanding because it won't be a threat to my life or health.
This is where you're going to come to get all the answers. All right, so allow them to respond now. Thanks, Charles. Really appreciate it.
We have over 60,000 Jamaicans.
So Charles, so you have to allow them to respond.
Me?
Yeah,
I'm Thomas, sorry.
I'm so sorry, Thomas. My apologies.
Can I just finish the last 2 lines here?
The last 2 lines?
Very quick.
2 points or lines?
2 lines. So my closing thought would be to withdraw the bill, allow for proper ventilation of the issues over a 3-month period even, town hall meetings and joint select committee where we can properly speak about the many, many issues that are in the bill. We're not against the bill, but we are for the country of Jamaica moving forward.
Thanks,
well,
Thomas.
I tell you what,
excellent.
You know what I reject? Do you know what I reject? I reject the view that somehow you have a higher moral authority on this matter than I do.
Our young people are looking at this and they're saying this is something that is right because the politicians, the leaders of our country, this is something that they do. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I would like for you to, first of all, apologize on the way you responded to the question.
All right, so we've seen the videos and we've seen these young men. They're in a consultation session with the Prime Minister of Jamaica and Her Holiness, and they're asking questions. And I am proud as a youth worker because Jamaica has applied a positive youth development approach in some sense. And for those of us working on the ground as youth workers, without resources, without sometimes being adequately prepared, a lot of people sometimes without the proper capacity built to do. But one of the things we started to do when we had our first youth policy was we started to engage young people, not just problem focused, not just reactive, as some of you will hear me talk about, but started to engage young people proactively and establish some youth leadership programs like the Youth Parliamentarian Program, National Secondary Students Council, Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, the National Youth Councils, Parish Youth Councils, and we've had a strong youth club movement since probably the 1920s with Marcus Garvey movement, and really initiating community development, engaging young people to be a part of community building, activism, entrepreneurship. And that has evolved when we saw the Western infusion of their direction of youth development in terms of reform schools and Western organizations like YMCA, YWCA, brigades, scouts, with their kind of recreational as well as alternative education in a kind of reform way for young people. But we had youth development and engaging young people. It is built into our Pan-African nature. And that's something that I'm finding very fascinating as a trainer, as somebody who develops training, and as an advocate for youth development and youth development work. I am starting to see youth development in our Pan-African history and to see how young people were engaged in different ways, but the concepts, some of the underlying concepts are the same, some are not, and those that are not, we have to be cognizant of that. And that's why I encourage people in their countries, don't just take a curriculum, don't just take concepts, don't just take approaches and models from someone, especially the Western world, giving to other parts of the world who have more dynamic histories, longer histories. Examine its relevance, examine how it might have existed before it was given that name, and then be able, so that it will have that cultural value. It will not have that, it will resonate with the people. And so we have done a lot of work in Jamaica as youth workers with youth leadership. I mean, our organization, Jamaica Professional Youth Workers Association, has trained a lot of youth leaders involved in social entrepreneurship, organizations and groups. We've trained a lot of community-based youth leaders all across the island, specifically in St. Catherine, but also in other parts of the area, to be able to engage young people, because youth are their constituents. And so I'm proud to see this group of young men and to see this forum and to hear them ask questions and to hear them feel the confidence and with the eloquence and the respectful nature be able to correct such a high level member of government as to his response, which was heated, which was not for the young man, was a response for the broader reality. But I was happy to see the young people bringing issues that normally people don't think they're interested in, bringing these kind of issues and being involved. And I'm very happy with social media, in the sense of social media has brought the ability for countries like Jamaica to be able to interact with their political directorate. Although the political directorate is not interacting with them, they have been able to interact. So when the politicians go to a UN meeting and they don't vote, or whatever issues they're being asked to vote on, before people wouldn't be engaged about those things. But now, because of social media, people are interested. How did Jamaica vote? Why did they miss a vote? And people are now asking questions. We see people from across the diaspora living outside of Jamaica. We have the same amount of people living outside and living inside, and they are now becoming involved in the political system more forcefully, having protests across America about the corruption and political leadership. And so that we're in a profound time. And it's good to see young people voicing. It's about there was a process that came that has now given them that platform. And I'll show you an article as well. Let's take a look at it. And this article was about a group of young people, youth leaders, varying groups of youth leaders who were at a Gleaners Forum. And they spoke so well, and they engaged with issues that were necessary. And they faced a lot of backlash, but I was thankful that the media at the time gave them that opportunity, gave them that platform to be able to speak. And so us taking that direction of youth leadership and involving young people in decision making, it's a long road. And it's not always been successful. Those young people faced a lot of reprisals. Some of them were blacklisted. You know, they faced some level of aggressive retaliation, but it was a good moment for Jamaican youth to be able to recognize that they have a voice. And so sometimes when we think about youth leadership, we think about their inclusion, and their inclusion is necessary. But one of the things we have to make sure that we facilitate is that our youth leaders stay connected to their constituents, because we've had political representatives who led our Ministry of Youth, and we were so happy they were former youth leaders who had benefited from programs, and we were looking forward to their initiatives and the impact, but the impact was very low. And one of the things I've assessed over the years is that sometimes the youth leadership becomes disconnected from the constituents of youth, and they begin to speak for themselves. They begin to utilize the opportunities, which are good, but if you are a youth leader, you should be speaking for youth. If you're not speaking for youth and you're speaking for yourself, then you no longer are a youth worker. You're a youth leader. You are now a self leader, but you're a social influencer and promoter, but you are not a youth leader. You have to have constituents that you're speaking for, that you are engaging with daily, regularly. And another thing that we get twisted is that youth inclusion is youth mainstreaming. And we oftentimes think that we're including young people, and we have to include young people, and we do, and we should, wherever the opportunity is. But youth mainstreaming is also about considering young people, considering them in policy and program development, considering them in agendas. That's also integrating their needs, integrating their voice, integrating their desires, integrating them into the process. So sometimes we confuse youth inclusion and youth mainstreaming to be the same thing, and they're not. Youth inclusion is a part of youth mainstreaming, but youth mainstreaming is also much broader. And sometimes we need people like youth workers to come to the table, because when a youth worker comes to the table, a youth worker is not just speaking for a one young person. They're speaking based on their experience in social research and engaging community. And so they are able to really speak broader and deeper as it relates to the issues affecting young people. And so youth mainstreaming should also include bringing youth workers. They are a powerful resource. They're actually power brokers. And youth workers, again, I would say, have been known to change even election directions, because they empower their young people so well. And so, again, I am proud to see the direction of when you apply strength-based methodology and strength-based approaches to youth development. It might take decades, which it has, but it does create a generation. And we're seeing a generation of social entrepreneurs, non-government organizations, youth leaders who understand the process, and are speaking up about issues that young people don't often engage with. We're seeing it all across Africa as well. We're seeing young people taking up leadership. We're seeing younger presidents. And I think sometimes that's the growth with the Jamaican people, because our prime minister came in as a young man and somebody who had benefited from youth development. And so there was a lot of hope that he would come with new things and innovation. And he has to some extent, but then there are also more questionable old style politics that people didn't know were going to also be presented. But we have to remember, he's also a product of the society. And so the society is very corrupt. We can't run from that. Jamaican society is very corrupt. And so he's a product. I am a product. We have to always assess ourselves to see the level of corruption that exists in the things that we were taught. And so we have to reprogram ourselves towards being more honest and full of integrity. And so I am proud of the youth leaders. And I can say that this, what we're seeing, we've seen it in the 2012s, I think, with the youth leaders, and we're seeing it again. And I hope to see more of it. I hope that the youth leaders that have a platform use their platform to speak about issues that reflect the issues that the young people are facing. Youth workers do the same. Advocacy is a key part of youth development. You cannot be a youth worker and not be an advocate. That's why youth workers are not social workers, because social workers are bound by certain ethics that do not facilitate them promoting a level of advocacy as practitioners, and as well as among their beneficiaries. They are confined. We're not confined. And so we have to be able to operate within our standard of work as youth development workers. And I said, I applaud the young people and I encourage more young people. And I'm thankful to even some of the bloggers and the vloggers and the social influencers, because they are bringing perspectives, they are bringing the voice, they are bringing things that sometimes I might not like to see, but we need to see. They are bringing a reflection. And so when we see the young people reflecting certain things, when we see our leaders behave in certain ways, they are a product of the society. We're all a product of the Jamaican society. And there's some things about the society that are not good. And we need to assess it to find out if we are that, and we can reprogram and retool ourselves to operate in a better way. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say. You know, it is a contribution of many youth workers over the decades that have promoted and set the platform and used methodologies and engage young people in a way that some of these youth groups and organizations have been born. Some of them are strong. And like I said, a lot of politicians have come through the ranks, but have sometimes disappointed because they lose connection with the constituents of young people. And so let us who are there not lose the connection. Let us use our platforms well in this time. Election time is always a time where, you know, we get a lot of promises and we hear a lot of things. Let us look at the policies. Let us look at the issues as we are. I think we're doing a very good job in terms of really examining. I've never seen such a time where the people overall are really examining the issues, examining their political directorates and holding them accountable. And I hope that whoever wins on election day in November, that the people will continue to hold their political representatives accountable and understand that you've elected them to represent you. And so they have to remain accountable to the people. They are just representatives, leaders, leading in the sense of leading our voice, but not leading us, because they serve us. They are servants and they need to be reminded of that. And the only way sometimes to remind them is by that vote. And so I hope that whoever wins we hold them accountable as we are now looking at the issues, examining. Let us do it without emotion, but let us do it in an honest way so that we can really be a part of the decision making, which is what our young people are doing. And I applaud it. And I hope that more young people do it. And I hope that young people are not tricked into being pawns of voting. As we look over the world, we look at the Arab Spring, it was the young people that led those protests. But when the governments were formed now, the young people were not at the table. Don't be tricked to break the chain and bring change, and then you're not a part of the decision making. Ensure that you're a part of the decision making, and ensure that the voices of the voiceless are heard and continue. We are proud, and we as youth workers and youth development specialists, we continue to forge the way. I've been examining a lot of the North American context, and they don't have what a lot of the developing countries have in terms of youth leadership and young people so involved from all levels, from the community all the way up to the legislative level. They don't have that. They don't have that. There are different contexts, and there are areas that they need that. They need young people's voices. They need young people included in decision making. And so let us cherish what we have achieved over the past 20, 30 something years in youth development. Let us build on it, and let us continue to work alongside our partners, young people, to ensure that they keep the voice. So again, this is another Youthful Solutions talking about youth inclusion, youth mainstreaming, youth leadership in the political atmosphere. And I thank you for your feedback, your comments, your emails. I will talk about some of this violence in schools some more, because I've seen that people want me to talk some more about that. But I am TanYah Global, and this is Youthful Solutions. And so don't forget to click the like, subscribe, so that you can see when a video is out, because I'm not so good at promoting that aspect, but it is necessary. And so thank you for listening. I am TanYah Global.